I am Tamara Thomas,
And I'm Jackie Shrigley.
and welcome to Urban Health Weekly, where we're just a couple of medical science nerds. Yes, we are nerds.
We are definitely nerds. I come from a long line of nerds. I love it.
Who enjoy talking about the latest in research and medical science news. So, how are you, my dear?
I'm doing all right. How are you? We had a pretty good week this week. Lovely weather, maybe a little hot.
Yes, but I didn't get to enjoy any of it because I had to go for the breast ultrasound this week,
Oh,
and they kept me waiting a long time because they were having some issues with I guess, the machine. So that was on the front end. Then we did it. Then on the back end, she looks at the paper. I get regular, I get the MRI and then I get the breast ultrasound for surveillance. Do you get surveillance or do you just get the regular mammogram?
I get the regular mammogram, and then I have to remind them to request the ultrasound on me.
So do you do it 6 months or is it all annually?
It's annually.
Wow, okay.
It should probably be more like 6 months for me.
Insurance will only pay every 6 months if you're high risk. So like
I don't have the BRCA.
Yeah.
No. Yeah.
Or if you have a family history of cancer.
Okay.
So then they'll pay for it.
My aunt had it, but it was much later. She was in her 60s, and I think they don't consider that.
They don't consider secondary. It's got to be straight linear. Like my grandfather died of prostate cancer, and then my mom died of breast cancer, and I've got the BRCA mutation, so they have to pay out.
Yes, they have to. Yes.
So in January I did the MRI, and then they wrote me and they're like, "We see that you had your MRI in January, and now it's time to do something else. So we're writing you so that you can make your other appointment. It's important to keep up with your breast health." So I was like, okay, I've been meaning to do it anyway. I had the referral, so I did it. And then on the back end, she looked at, because you fill out the paperwork where they ask you for any complaints and stuff. And I did feel like I had a little something that seems to pop up every time I have my period. And so I noted, because it's better to say than not say, and that it be something.
Right.
So then she didn't look at the paper when I handed to her when she first came to get me. Then she looks at it after she's done, after I wiped off all the jelly and put all my clothes on. And she's like, "Why didn't you tell me?" And I'm like, "You didn't ask. It's on the paper. I handed you the paper and you didn't ask." And she's like, "Oh, that's right. I usually ask, but I didn't." She usually does ask in the beginning, like, "Oh, are you having any complaints?" But because she was so caught up with the whole machine not working and trying to stay on schedule, she forgot. But that's not my fault. So she's like giving me this whole accusatory, "Why didn't you tell me?" So now I have to sit and wait for her to speak to the radiologist to give me the all clear, because she doesn't want me to leave in case they want more scans of the breast.
Okay.
Because I have a cyst in my left breast, and so they always
keep an eye on it.
Right, and that's why I don't like doing the mammograms, because they do this thing where it's already squeezed.
Squeeze it.
What they do is they want to squeeze it again to see how it behaves, to make sure it's what they think it is. And it's
that sounds like trouble.
Oh, it's agony. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's why I do the MRI. Now,
all right.
The doctor tells you.
Who reminds you, by the way? You said you've got
registry. I just get a note.
Oh, it's through the registry, through the hospital?
Well, I don't go to the hospital for the scan. I go to a radiology. It's a radiology franchise.
So are they sending the reminder, the registry through them? I'm curious.
The registry is through them. They report to the registry, because they're probably part of SEER, SEER. The services. Okay. So they send me notices. If I'm just a month late, they write me and they're like, "Our records show that you haven't had something done in 6 months, and it's time for you to do something else." And blah, blah, blah.
All right. That's a good reminder. Yeah.
It is a good reminder. It's annoying because I know, I already
And
know.
you're so vigilant too. So
Yeah.
yeah.
I know I have to get to it. It's not like I don't know. It's just that they're like, but it's good. It's good for people who don't keep up with that kind of stuff. So that was interesting. So I was a little bit annoyed. And then she started talking to me because they were looking at, they want me to follow up because of the not so great the not so great virtual colonoscopy I had. And I was like,
Oh yes.
no, I'm not. I'm just going to have a regular colonoscopy. So just take that notation out of your system, because they're like, oh, do you need to reschedule that? And I'm like, no, I'm not. So just, it was the scan itself, the ultrasound, that part was fairly quick. A little painful because I was on my period, but it was quick. And then the administrative parts, that was what took so long. That's always the part that takes long.
Yes.
It just eats into your day or what. But in any event, it's done, and I'm good for another 6 months. I did forget to ask them for a disc, and because I usually ask them to give me a copy of the.
Do they burn it right away for you, or you come back and pick it up a couple days later?
It depends. Usually I can pick it up. I can pick it up right away. Sometimes I do have I have to go and they're taking forever, and I'll say, look, I'll be back X day, and they'll just put it at the desk and I can come back. But I forgot in all the hubbub, because I'm always good about asking. Well, I asked the technician and she told me, well, you have to ask the front desk. But then the front desk tells you, you've got to tell the technician. So
where do you keep all your discs? Do you have like a folder of medical stuff?
I send them to, okay. The only reason I get the disc is because I never know which provider, like my breast oncologist, she doesn't, for some reason, Columbia Presbyterian doesn't
yes,
access the Lennoxville radiology. Every other doctors that I go to can see it, like Mount Sinai can see it, like regular primary care doctor can see it. They're the only ones for some reason that are unable to get into that system.
Okay.
And it's such a pain in the butt. I figure I'm just going to burn it.
So when you have that disc, do they just pop it in and take a look at it like in real time when you visit? Is that how you do it?
No, I send it in advance because I have to see her in a couple of days. I mail it to them, have their radiologist look at it since that's what they specialize in. And then they call me and tell me everything's fine. And they now have it as part of.
So you do that all in advance. It's not like she's looking at it as you're visiting, because that would be inefficient. Okay, she'd have to get back to you. Oh, that's wow.
Yeah.
But it requires administrative effort on your part.
Exactly.
You're the person for that.
Yes. It's Me Inc. So yes. I forgot in all the hubbub. I forgot to. So I've got to make time to go back. But the good thing with Lennoxville is you don't have to go to the same exact one. You can go to any one. So there's one a few blocks away from me that I am going to just stop over there and have them burn me the disc. And that's it.
That's great. That's great.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's the one thing. I don't like going to them for the exams because these guys are efficient compared to the one in my neighborhood.
Okay.
In my neighborhood, you'll sit there for an hour and a half. And it's like, come on, why do you give me an appointment if you're gonna have me sitting here? Like, this is ridiculous. Because they take walk-ins, that's why. The other place walk-ins. So if somebody walks in 5 minutes before your scheduled appointment, you're deprioritized.
Oh my gosh.
So I don't like going there. But for scans, I'll go there and, I'll because I can just walk there and then they'll burn it and I'll come back in an hour or in the afternoon or something, provided the machines are working. Their machines are always so glitchy, but it's probably because it's like working, morning and afternoon, like all day, every day. So, apparently, I guess over time, wear and tear. But it's a fairly efficient process, and I'm an efficient person, so it works for me.
Yes, you are. And would you say it took you like 3 hours for the MRI and then the ultrasound and the wait time and the administrative? What was like your entering the building and leaving the building? What was your time frame? Yeah.
So for the MRI, they actually go much quicker because not too many people have MRIs.
Right.
That process tends to go a little faster. It's for the scans and for the CTs and the ultrasounds. Those tend to take a little longer because that's what most people are getting.
Right.
X-rays and stuff like that. MRI, I would say from the time I walk in the door to the time I walk out the door. And that's including giving me the contrast in the vein.
Ooh.
I would say an hour and 15 minutes.
That's really not bad.
Not bad. That's including changing clothes, getting.
That's not bad at all.
Putting the headphones on, having my blanket, because I always request a blanket because they're always accusing me of shivering.
So cold.
Well, it is cold in there and you have to stay perfectly still. I actually had to go back 2 years ago and redo an entire MRI set.
Because you shivered?
Well, I shivered, yes. I shivered. It was like in December, and they keep those rooms absolutely freezing. And so I guess I shivered, and the radiologist didn't like my scans and had me come back and do, and then the technician, he was really upset because he's looking at the scans and he's like, these are perfectly fine. What's his problem? He's like looking at, these look perfectly fine. He's just being lovely. In any event, but it's generally very quick. So I always request a blanket anytime I do any of those because I don't want to shiver, I don't want to make a move, I don't want to have to come back and do it all again. Ain't nobody got time for all of that.
No. Wise words by that woman.
So let's get into news of the week. So have you been following the Olympics at all? The Olympic trials, rather?
I have been. I watched Sha'Carri Richardson do her, run and qualify. That was impressive.
Oh, you saw it? Yeah, I didn't.
I did. I watched it on YouTube a while back. Yeah.
Oh, okay. I haven't been really following it. I've been following the headlines, and basically the track and field women have been getting disqualified left and right for breaking rules. They're saying it almost feels, except that like Joe Biden said, the rules are the rules, but it almost feels like a little mini conspiracy. And I don't really like to get into conspiracy theory stuff, but let's go down the list. So Brianna McNeil, who going to be for the U.S., they're accusing her of tampering within the results management process. Girl had to admit that she had an abortion, which is already embarrassing, to admit. And then she had made a mistake on the day filling out the paperwork. So she might have put the third instead of the second.
Anybody could have done. Anybody could have done that. And now she has to air her personal business.
They forced her
in a public way like that.
Yeah. Tampering within the results management process is what they accused her of. So she's out. Then the girl, Sha'Carri.
Is she really out?
She's out. Yes.
Oh man.
I mean, they're not going to be able to. I don't know how long their sentences are, but
she's going to miss her chance. I heard Sha'Carri is like 30 days, but they've already dropped her. They dropped her. She can't do the relay.
Right. I mean, she's just not going to make it in time to. So Sha'Carri Richardson testing positive for marijuana. There's a petition going around for her, but she knew the rules. She understood the rules, and
that's been around a little while. That marijuana ruling.
Right. It's sort of controversial because is marijuana performance enhancing? That's not the rule. That's not what they say. They say something along the lines of, I forget the language they use, but something like it's just
that it's not like a good example in the spirit of the Olympics.
Right, something like that.
That you're supposed to be a sort of model for behavior and
go ahead.
No, go ahead.
But the issue becomes, are they keeping up with the times? Because,
No, no, because they changed that ruling before. I think it was like probably in the late 90s they changed that rule because somebody tested positive. I forget who it was. I think it was Ross. He was like a snowboarder and he tested positive for weed. Yeah, here it is. Yeah, they changed the rules in 98. It wasn't on the list of banned substances until it got changed the Winter Olympics of 98. Then they made it on the list of banned substances.
Really? Okay, so they
Yeah.
added it to the list of.
Yes.
Well,
They
there's
added it to.
a petition going around, to reinstate her, but I think, Twitter and social media has to kind of understand, like, this is.
Yeah. She was, I think, in Oregon, right, where it's legal when she ran the race.
She had anxiety, her mother died. I guess she found out in
Yes.
some kind of way, and just
Right.
performance anxiety of having to deal with this and keep it together and keep that professional facade up and talk to the media and be.
It's so much pressure. It's so much pressure.
It is.
Wait, say that again. It's what?
She said, remember when they interviewed her on the sideline and she said, "I'm that girl." I just want everyone to know that I'm that girl. So
That girl.
I'm piggybacking on what she's saying. So in order for her to be that girl, she smoked, but she knew the rules and she knew that it wasn't a good idea. But she did what she felt she needed to do, and she's accepting the consequences. She's not.
Right. But it's really, I mean, it's hard on her because she's going to miss, and now they're not going to even have her in the relay. She's going to miss,
Yeah.
and it's going to be a shame because everybody wants to see her run.
Yes.
I want to see her run.
I mean,
it's less exciting.
Yeah, they dubbed her the new FloJo, because she's got red.
Yes, she's got that glamour, that star quality. Yes.
Yeah. Well, and I think she might be LGBTQIA.
She is, I think, but she's also only like 21, 22. I don't know how that works in track.
Yeah.
If she'll get another chance, I don't know how that works because the window, these sports are just so intense. It just feels such a shame.
But also, and I kind of mourn her opportunities for endorsements and
yes,
the box and all that she's just gonna miss out on. It's a shame.
Yes,
but she's still young, and 25 is still pretty young to get back into the game. And I don't know if she'll have the same speed and that explosive dynamic, but we'll see. So, but here's the one that really sticks in my craw. Christina Mboma and Beef Maslingi, both from Namibia. Now, they have rules for the women that you can't have a certain amount of testosterone in your body to compete in certain events. These women, this is not performance enhancing.
It's naturally occurring, or the way their body processes.
This is their natural testosterone levels are considered too high to compete in certain events. So they've been disqualified for nothing other than having a natural competitive advantage. That's hard.
Where do they get to compete if they can't compete in the women's category?
They don't.
They can't. And if you're naturally over enhanced and you're male, it doesn't eliminate you. Is that correct? You're still
not.
Okay.
There is no upper limit of testosterone for men.
But there's upper limit for women.
Women for certain events, yes.
Wow.
Yeah. The same thing for Caster Semenya of South Africa, same thing.
Oh,
and,
yeah.
Okay. And for Cece Telfer, but Cece Telfer is a transgender athlete, but it's still unfair. And I wonder if they're singling out these three African in order to, so the logic might be something along the lines of, like, if we permit them, then we have to permit transgender, and we're not going to do that. So we're just going to set an upper.
And who is that the Olympic Committee?
The Olympic Committee, yes.
that Olympic committee is really like, it comes under fire a lot, the Olympic committee. It's a little, it feels sometimes, I recognize the rules are the rules, but sometimes the rules feel sort of arbitrary. I don't know. It's, that one feels unfair, especially if it's naturally occurring. And, you know, what are transgender athletes supposed to do if they can't perform under their, you know, how are they supposed to be able to perform?
Well, that's the question I was having with somebody recently. So what should they do? They are women.
Right.
Why they're not able to they can't make themselves have less testosterone than they already have.
I did read an article just recently. Just recently, I read an article where some endocrinologist, he said that that there seems to be a 2-year advantage, about 2 years, for a transgender woman still has a little bit of an advantage from her natural testosterone for about 2 years after she takes you know, yes, that, but you know, that was like a one article. I don't know that that's ever been replicated. That was just like his like personal opinion that he published. I'd be very curious to know if
that is very interesting.
But has it been replicated? Is that just like individual case study? Like, I don't know. I don't see, you know, and what do you consider, what numbers are an advantage? Like, what is it? There seems to be some upper body strength, you know, I don't know.
Yeah. That's a tough one. But you're right. So then where do they compete? So where do these women, where do they go if they can't compete with other women? They can't compete with men, you know. Shelby Houlihan for the US tested positive for anabolic steroid nalandrone. Nalandrone normally occurs in pork.
Really?
Right. Well, you know, they inject these animals.
Yes.
So nalandrone is one that shows up in pork. So she checked her food records, because you know these athletes they're very fastidious about their diet. It turns out that she claims that she got it from ingesting a pork burrito from a food truck. They said, no, we're not buying it. You're disqualified. So all these women bumped to the curb, their dreams dashed for another how many years because of.
That's a lot of women.
Yes, that's why I said
that's a lot of women.
That's a lot of women.
I feel like the standards are so much higher on female athletes.
What is going on? What is going on?
How realistic are those numbers? Those sort of testosterone numbers? Like, how realistic is that?
Right.
Are they unnaturally low? I mean, the natural variant in human beings is pretty
wide.
Huge, yeah. So, oh man, I feel so bad for that Shelby too.
Yeah. And they're not even going to investigate it. They are allowing for that yes, this is commonly found in pork. And you know, when you do ingest that stuff, it does stay in your system. So I don't know how much of it. I don't know if it was a trace. I don't know if she was like, man, these are good. I'm gonna have one every day. Well, I'm gonna have 2. But it was enough that it got her kicked, and
it flagged her. Okay.
Flagged her. She appealed. They denied her appeal. I mean, all these women appeal. No, except for Shikari. She didn't. There was nothing to appeal, but she was dead to rights.
Yeah, and now she's out because they just said that she's not going to be able to do the relay either, which would have been her one remaining event.
Right.
Wow.
So that's 4 years these women are on the bench and have trained. But for the women who have the naturally occurring testosterone, where do these women go? You're absolutely right. That's a great question. What happens?
You're a born athlete.
Yes.
And you don't get to compete.
Yeah.
You're too spectacular.
You know,
That's
there was an interesting post on Quora where someone was talking about Michael Phelps. They were talking
yes.
about what was it called? It was privilege. So, certain privilege, when people enjoy certain privileges. It was a post about white privilege, but the person gave an example of how it
Mhm.
can be privileged. And they talk about Michael Phelps, how he's built a particular way. He has like these
Yeah,
really
he's
long
super
arms,
tall. He has
he's got
paddle
short
feet.
legs.
Yes.
You know, the way his body, it was this whole thing they broke down of how his
Right.
body was basically built for swimming.
Right. Yes.
And and he gets to compete. He gets to compete. He has his natural advantage. These women have this
Yes.
natural advantage, but it now becomes a disadvantage because God forbid the other women have to compete with that. You know, the playing field has to be leveled. I just, it's it's
Yeah,
tough.
it doesn't feel like a case where being fair doesn't necessarily have to be the same. That's where it doesn't feel
Yeah.
right.
Not,
And it's exciting to see the natural,
yeah.
the natural variance of
What that
people who
does.
are born to be athletic. Like that's exciting to watch.
Yeah.
It feels like we're interrupting their destiny. Like we've just like prevented
Like
them.
a year. This is 4 years now. They have to
Yeah.
go without, their flowers. I don't know. I think the Olympic Committee needs to sit down and I think they need to really reevaluate their rules and their norms to fit today. I don't know how, what that there are countries that still consider marijuana verboten, right?
Yes.
So it's hard to say because Olympics is the world, it's not just the US.
Yes.
I don't know. I don't know if it's really for us to say. I just know that it feels very unfair to me that these women have been disqualified for breaking the rules. But what are you gonna do? If they say that it's not to be, it's not to be. I just,
That's big. There was like, I forget the guy's first name, but his last name was Indurain, and he was built with, like huge lungs. He was like a cycling machine, born like that.
mhm.
Nobody said that like he wasn't, that he shouldn't compete. They just said he's built, like you're saying for Phelps, that he's just built like a
Right.
tank. He's a perfect athlete for that sport. So
Right.
that's exciting to watch. He shouldn't be penalized for being, born with a perfect physique for that sort of sport. That's how I feel about, those ladies with the naturally occurring.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And some people are trying to say, well, it's racism, sexism, and all this other stuff. I'm not gonna to get into that, but it does feel a bit punitive, is what I would say, and unnecessarily so. But as Biden said, the rules are the rules.
All right.
Smokers of menthol cigarettes have a harder time quitting, according to a new study from BMJ's journal Tobacco Control. They found that smoking cigarettes plain versus smoking cigarettes with menthol is associated with reduced success in quitting among people who smoke daily. So the FDA, as you know, is trying to ban all menthol from cigarettes. Partly they're saying because of it, because the menthol is what keeps it's what helps you tolerate the burn of the tobacco.
Ah.
Yeah, I don't smoke, so I don't know. I couldn't say. But the menthol cools the burn and makes the smoking tolerable and pleasurable. So instead of you going, it's like, so they want to remove that. So they're working to remove that. They've removed a bunch of stuff, but the menthol seems to be the one sticker that they're just like.
I say that flavor sounds like, I mean, it's there for a reason. It's probably, very reinforcing. It creates its own like little addictive pattern or repetitive behavior. It's sensory seeking. People, when they're smoking, they're sensory seeking too. It's not just the nicotine.
Yes.
It's all reinforcing. I could see why that's like a trigger. And when they develop cigarettes, they're, you know, they're for the purpose of being, you know, nicotine delivery system. So that menthol adds a little extra something. What do you feel? You feel like, I could see why they'd want to remove that. That's like a sneaky little thing. I recognize that people want their pleasure and they want, you know, but.
Well, you know, my dad smoked for many years, and finally he gave up smoking, I guess, somewhere down the line.
Did he smoke menthol?
He smoked Marlboros. I don't know. Is Marlboro?
I don't know that Marlboro. I don't think so.
Yeah, it's not. It's Newport, which is what I see a lot of.
I remember cool cigarettes. They had menthol. There was like, it was like a cooler, like, yeah, okay. Newport is menthol. Okay. Are women more likely to smoke menthol? Your breath is a little fresher.
People are more likely to smoke. I don't know if it's necessarily women. So okay. What the use of menthol cigarettes prior to attempting to quit decreased the probability of a smoker being able to abstain for more than 1 month by 28%, and for more than a year by 53% compared to those who didn't smoke menthol cigarettes. So that sounds pretty addictive to me.
Sounds addictive to me, yeah.
I think at the end of the day, we'll see what happens once the menthol, if they're successful in having the menthol removed, if that makes a difference. I know here in New York, they put a tariff on cigarettes and had made it so expensive.
I don't know how anybody still smokes. That's got to be the #1 deterrent for smoking. It's so expensive.
That a lot of people ended up just giving up smoking because they were like, I just can't afford it.
Did they move to vaping?
I don't know. Is vaping cheaper than cigarette smoking? I don't think so.
I don't know, but I'll tell you, vaping has a lot of flavors and people get into that. And I can see why, I could see that that's part of its appeal is all the different flavors they put into vape.
It's kind of like with alcohol, where they found that if they make the alcoholic beverages sweeter, they were able to open the market to get more
to broader people. It's not just those amber drinks anymore. Now they're making like
not hard liquor anymore.
Yes,
sweet drinks, and that's what brought women in.
Crossover appeal, and then they got you.
Because alcohol by itself, like there's no alcoholic drink that I'm like, delicious. I think it all
put it into a pina colada though.
If you put it into, well, not even. If you see, I don't know any brand names of
I remember like peach schnapps back in the day. They had like these little flavors, or Midori, all these liqueurs that have like all these flavor, Kahlua, all that stuff.
Okay, so Kahlua,
pineapple rum, yeah, all those things.
Right, exactly. Yeah. That's what I'm talking about.
It makes it palatable and yummy and like, yeah, girly drinks. Yeah, they call it girly drinks.
I use rum for baking, but that's like once a year, and
right.
And it is yummy. Like I smell it and I'm like, I can see why people. But the whole idea was we can get more people if we make it more palatable. And that's the whole idea behind the menthol. Like we found the thing that makes more people want to smoke and smoke longer.
Yes.
And take our.
It feels like your breath is fresher when you've smoked a menthol cigarette than when you've smoked like a regular cigarette. And I think that has some appeal to people also. It's almost like they've chewed gum, like Mentos, like you chew like a piece of like candy sort of that has like, your breath feels fresher. I think that's part of the appeal.
Well, good luck to them. I hope that I do hope the FDA is successful in getting this removed. If that's, and if it makes a difference in people's smoking habits. Mm-hmm. I just think sometimes addiction is addiction. For sure, it won't get new people. It won't get new people. But will people who have smoked for so long say, "Oh, this just tastes awful good. I don't want this anymore"?
I don't think so. I think they'll
tough it out.
Yeah.
Or might roll it with some. Now that marijuana is legal, roll it with some marijuana, make a new flavor. You know, they might cross over into just,
Yeah.
instead of like roll cigarettes with the filter, save money on the filter, put them in like little tobacco pouches, and then you women make your own little cigarillo.
There'll be some little side industry specifically for that.
They'll figure it out. They'll figure it out. And then people always find ways to do what they want to do.
Yes.
So
Yes.
they'll figure it out. But I wish the FDA luck in getting that done.
Me too. Fewer smokers makes me happier. Yes.
No, fewer. Also, you know, with the lung cancer, you remember how she had the emphysema.
Wow.
And
Yes.
that's what killed her. You know.
Wow.
They wanted her to use that iron lung thing, the oxygen tank, iron lung, the oxygen
Wow.
tank. And she was like, nope, I'm not going to do that. I'd rather die. And
Wow. That's how powerful, how much people.
well, she had
love
stopped
their
smoking prior to that because she just had these horrible coughing spells that would just like practically break her rib. And she lived alone, and she was afraid that, you know, she would pass out and no one would find her. And that was when she had finally said, okay, I'm gonna quit, because I don't want to die face down in my bathtub or whatever, having a coughing spasm
Oh.
finds me. And then within a couple of weeks, she was gone. And I miss her to this day. You know. But it was she was diagnosed with emphysema because of all the years of smoking, and she just said, I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to walk around with the oxygen tank. You know, it's funny. They have these little mini tanks now that you can put in your purse. And sometimes I think if she had lived to see that, would she have been okay?
Would she have done that? Yeah.
No,
She was such a young spirit. She was such a young, glamorous lady that I could see that she probably she had a different idea of wheeling around your tank. Yeah.
They had the big one that you had to drag around with you.
Yes. And she lived in Florida, right? So there's lots of people you see regularly pulling around tanks like that. So she had an image.
She didn't be that. She didn't want to be that.
Yeah.
She was just like, I'd rather die than be that. And she did. God rest her soul.
God rest her soul.